All right, so today we're going to kind of be building on what we learned yesterday. So yesterday, do you guys remember what it's called, what we painted?
Washes.
Washes, right. So we painted washes and watercolor. And today we're going to learn more about brush strokes. So brush strokes are smaller than washes. They don't take up an entire page or an area, and you use brush strokes usually on top of a wash to create forms, to start creating the shapes that you want of whatever you're painting. So you can, today we're going to be using both our round brush and a flat brush. So they might look like that. So you might have one that's called a filbert, and it's like rounded up here, still flat here. And that's fine. You can use that, but I'm going to be using the flat brush, and it's kind of more of a rectangle shape. It's not rounded. And then this round brush. So the I'm using big ones, and you can experiment with the brush strokes with different sizes if you'd like. I have a few different sizes of each of those. So we're going to talk about how to hold our paintbrush. Sometimes when we're painting our brush strokes, we might hold it really close to the end to get really fine lines, and we have more control. But for the most part, we're probably going to be holding it back on the handle, and you can experiment with how you'd like to hold it. You could even hold it where your thumb is on top. You can do that and paint like this, or you can hold it with your fingers on top and your thumb on the bottom. But I kind of like to hold it to where when I balance it, like my paintbrush is balanced. See how it kind of is balanced there? If I held it further up, this handle would fall back. And if I held it further back, my front part of my paintbrush would fall too forward. So I like to kind of hold it right where it's balanced, that balance point. And if I took my finger off the top, it might actually balance, but it's round, so it's just gonna roll off my finger. So, okay. And there are two different types of brush strokes. There are pulled brush strokes, and then there are pushed brush strokes. Okay, so we're going to talk about those two different types of brush strokes. And our brush strokes are going to look different depending on how much pressure we put on the brush. Like, do you see how I'm pushing down on the bristles? Or I could have lightened pressure and it's just the tip of the bristles. Okay, that's going to create a different brush stroke. Okay, it's also going to be different whether I just use my wrist or if I use my whole arm. You see the difference? If I use my whole arm to paint, or if I just use my wrist to paint, it's going to be different. Okay, so, and then it's also going to look different if your paper is already wet or if your paper is dry. So we're going to experiment with lots of different ways, okay? And we're going to have fun. All right, so you really only need one color for today. And we're going to start with our round brush. We're going to start experimenting with our round brush. Okay? And brush strokes, when you're painting, it's kind of like handwriting. They're going to look different for every person. Have you guys ever seen someone whose handwriting is the exact same as yours? Probably not. Everyone's handwriting is a little different, and that's true for an artist. Everyone's brush strokes as an artist kind of define them as who they are, and you can't really mimic them. It's really difficult. Okay, so your brush strokes are going to look different than my brush strokes, and that's okay because that's like your handwriting. So first did you guys get your water? You guys have a cup of water? A cup of water, and you could have like a paper towel in your kit. You can use this paper towel to dry off your brush if you want to have a brush stroke that has a drier bristles than wet bristles. Okay, so you can use your paper towel and your round brush and some paint and a palette, or you can use the lid of your palette paint. Okay. Okay, so whatever color you want to paint with, just start adding some water to it.
I'll choose, yeah, actually choose because blue is this color.
So we're going to make brush strokes with all the different parts of our paintbrush, including the handle. Crazy, huh? Okay, so that means we're going to make a brush stroke with the end and the side and even this end of our paintbrush, okay? Okay. So we're going to first talk about pulled brush strokes. Do you guys have your water and your paint ready to go? Yeah, I have lots of water on my paint. The less water you have, the darker your paint will be. So you can decide how dark you want your paint to be. Okay. So to do a pulled brush stroke, we're going to lightly tip the tip of our brush onto our paper. And as we pull down, we're going to push down and then lightly pull up again. And it kind of creates that shape. That's a pulled brush stroke. You guys can repeat. Okay, you guys want to try that again? So I'm just going to touch my paper with the very tip of my paintbrush, and then I'm going to push down as I pull my brush down. I'm going to do it from a different angle so that maybe you can see it better. Okay, so I'm just tipping or touching the tip of my paper with my paintbrush, and then I'm going to push down as I pull my brush back. And that's a pulled brush stroke. Okay, you guys got that? All right, so now a pushed stroke is I'm going to turn my paintbrush to where now it's facing me. The tip of my paintbrush is facing me now. Okay, and I'm going to touch the tip of my paintbrush on my paper. And the same thing, I'm going to push down as I pull up, and then I'm going to lift up. And I kind of lift up. When I lift up at the end, I'm going to kind of flick my wrist a little. Flick my wrist away from me, okay? So holding the paintbrush to where it's facing me, I'm going to lightly touch the paper with the tip. And then as I push down, I'm going to pull up and away and then decrease the pressure and flick my wrist. And it kind of gives this little tip to your brushstroke. And you can try that a few times. It takes some practice. Okay, so those are pulled strokes. Pulled strokes, or push strokes, sorry. Push strokes, you pushing the brush this way. So you're kind of pushing the brush away from you. And pulled brush strokes, you're pulling towards you. Okay, so use those different types of brush strokes in our work. Okay. Now we're going to paint a rectangle, and we're just going to use the tip of our brush. So I'm going to kind of hold it straight down where my brush is pointing towards my paper. So get lots of water and some more paint on your brush. And I'm going to draw with the tip of my brush a rectangle. Okay, and I kind of used my whole arm to help me draw those straight lines. I'll show you what it would look like if I just used my wrist. Oops. So I would get a little bit more curvy, wavy lines if you just use my wrist. So if you want nice straight lines, you kind of use your whole arm from your shoulder down. Okay, and then we're going to fill in our rectangle, holding our brush a little bit further back and painting more with the side of our brush. Okay, so now my brush is kind of parallel to my paper, and I'm going to slide my brush over, kind of like we did with washes. Okay, just like that. You can paint with the side of your brush and the tip of your brush. Okay, and then if you want to draw a second rectangle if you haven't already. You can do that. And this time, I'm going to lay my brush kind of on its side. So I'm painting with the side of my brush. But this time, I'm going to kind of wiggle my brush back and forth, like that. And that's called scrambling. And so I kind of get a little more unevenness. And it let out a lot more pigment too. Okay, another thing we can do is we can just lightly touch the tip of our brush on our paper to kind of make polka dots. And you guys can experiment with pushing more and less. And you guys can see these really little ones, I had less pressure. And then these ones down here, I had more pressure. And it kind of like pushed my bristles out and created this cool little wispy tail from my polka dots. Okay, now we're going to make dots with more of the side of our brush. Just pushing our brush down, but not moving it. So like it's kind of like a pulled brush stroke, but we're not going to move it. You see that? Those are a little bit bigger of a dot, but those are great because you get the same shape every time. Okay, now we're gonna make some wavy lines. And the first time, I want you to just use your wrist to make the wavy line. Just your wrist. Try not to move your arm at all, just your wrist. We're gonna see what difference it makes. Okay, now we're gonna make a wavy line, moving our whole arm up and down. You guys feel the difference?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you guys can get your brush wet and just experiment with making thin to thick lines, maybe thin to thick. And you guys can keep painting until your brush gets dry. And depending on your paper, you're going to get a different result. It's going to create this nice texture with a dry brush. Mine is starting to get dry. Okay, I'll show you my dry brush strokes. So you can see that this pushed stroke right here is a little drier, and these were really dry. These are some pulled brush strokes that are really dry. Awesome, Madeline, that looks so good. And then these are some of my side brush dots that were with a dry brush, and they kind of create this really cool triangular shape. So yes, you can experiment with making different marks with a dry brush and a wet brush. Okay, now we're going to get a new piece of paper You tear that one off. And you can rinse your brush out and dry it on your paper towel. And then you can get a rectangle shaped brush. You see, they come in different sizes. These are both flat brushes, but one's a lot bigger than the other. Okay, so you can get that brush wet and add some more water to your paint. And load up your brush with lots of water. Okay, so first we're going to paint a downward stroke. Okay, with the flat part touching the paper. These would make like great little doors or windows. Okay, I'm gonna get more water and paint. And then this time, when I go down, I'm going to scrumble back and forth. And I'm gonna push down, and I'm gonna wiggle my paintbrush side to side. That's fun to do. That's called scrambling, when you kind of scrub the paper a little bit. Okay, now we're going to get some more paint and water. And we're going to turn our paintbrush so it's like pointing towards the paper. Okay, my handle is straight up and down. And we're just going to use the tip of our brush to make these fine lines.
I'll send out an email to
And these are great because you could make like little fence railings. With these, you can make nice fine lines. You can connect them, or they can just be just the width of your brush. All right, now we're going to do like a checkerboard pattern.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited.
Okay, so we're going to start doing the same thing we did right here, where we're going to pull down, but without lifting up your brush, you're going to slide over, and then you're going to go down again, slide over, go down again, slide over, down, slide over, down, slide over, and it's kind of going back and forth, left to right. And it makes kind of a cool little checkerboard pattern. We're gonna repeat that again. kind of fun. And you can keep going and make this really cool checkerboard pattern doing that. Okay, so we're gonna make some wavy lines with our flat brush. And you can vary the pressure. You can try it with just your wrist or your whole arm. And I really like how it gets thin and then thick and thin because it's a flat brush. So you get that really thin line. Okay, we're going to try a pulled stroke with our rectangle brush. And we're going to tilt the brush to where just the tip is just going to touch first. And we're going to just touch the tip of the edge and push down and then up.
Nora's a little bit frustrated.
Oh, is she frustrated?
She's not sure how to do the waves. Is that right?
Not sure how to do the waves? Okay.
What do you have a problem with?
How can I help you, Nora?
Nora, it's fine. We want to help you. It's okay. We don't want you to be frustrated. Can we see maybe what you're doing?
Nothing's wrong.
That one.
Whatever you do to experiment is great. See, that's awesome. All we're doing is just experimenting with making different marks with our paintbrush.
Okay.
So if you want more of a wave, just move your arm further up and further down and make it a little more exaggerated. Is that what you're frustrated with? No? What do you need? How can I help you?
I don't know how to do the checkered one.
Oh, the checkerboard one? Okay, let me go over that one again because that one can be tricky.
Yeah, true, it is tricky.
Okay. So the checkerboard, we're going to kind of hold our brush on the side so it's not up and down. It's kind of tilted to the side. Okay. And we're going to touch the paper with just this tip. Okay. Here, I'll hold it up at a different angle so you can see it. Okay, I'm going to pull my brush down and then without lifting it up off the paper, it's still touching the paper. I'm just going to slide it over. And then I'm going to pull it down and I'm going to slide it back underneath the first one. And then pull it down and slide it over. Pull it down and slide it over. Does that help? So you're just kind of going back and forth, pulling it down and then sliding it over. You need lots of water in order for it to work, because your water will make it go a little further. If you're just using paint, you're going to run out of paint before you can complete all of this. The water is the most important thing when painting with watercolors. Using more water.
I can see that. That's it.
That's it.
You
Yep.
got it, sister.
Good job.
Good job. And
So yeah,
if you get frustrated, you just need to let us know. Like, we're here to help you. We don't want you to be frustrated at all.
yeah.
If we were in our studio, we would be right there with you. So we want it to be like as much like being in our studio as possible. And that means that you just have to speak up if you are having a problem with anything. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Okay. So to do a pulled stroke, we're just using the side edge of this brush and the very tip. And we just touch the side tip of the brush down on the paper and push down with lots of pressure and then lift up. And it almost looks like the same as with our round brush, doesn't it? And then to do a push stroke, remember we're going to turn our handle away from us so the brush is pointing towards us. And we're going to do basically the same thing, but with a little flick at the end of our wrist. So I'm going to touch the tip down, push down with lots of pressure as I pull away, and then I lift up. And I kind of flick it to where there's like this pointy end. So you can just experiment with it, and there's no wrong way to do it. Like I said, everyone's strokes are going to look different because everyone has a different hand, just like our handwriting. So all we're doing is just experimenting with making different marks and trying out new things. And this is going to be really great to reference later on when you're painting something and you're like, I want that kind of look. What could I do to get that shape? And then you can look back on these brush strokes and be like, oh, that kind of looks like this. Okay, and if you want to, you can dab your brush on your paper towel to dry it a little bit and see what effects you get with the drier brush. You can scrumble it back and forth. And it creates this really cool texture. I have paper that doesn't have a lot of texture to it. Your paper might have more texture than mine. And so the paper will affect what kind of brush stroke you get to. Okay. So now we're going to do your own project with the brush stroke that we learned. And I'm going to show you some paintings that I really liked because you can kind of see that they did some like little pulled brush strokes here with like a flat brush to create these brick shapes and these little paver shapes. And I'm sure they did that for the door and maybe just used the tip of their flat brush to create this line right here, the shadow. Okay, so if you look at artwork, it's really made up of washes and brush strokes. That's it. Okay, so it takes practice. And then maybe these trees, they just did the tip of their brush and like just dotted it all over. So you can definitely make trees with just that technique. Okay, so it's kind of fun to look for different brush strokes in artwork. All right, so for our projects today, I figured we could combine some washes and some brush strokes since you guys know how to do both. So this little sun here is a gradient wash. So you could draw like a little half sun and do a gradient wash. And the thing about these is they have really hard edge. So I can tell that they let these two washes dry before doing the other one. So they probably started with this flat wash on the background and then did another wash for the sun. And then you can do little brush strokes for the water underneath. You can do them straight or you can do them wiggly, whatever you'd like.
I'm going to do that sunset or the watermelon.
Yeah, that would be fun. And then there's this watermelon. He's got a wash for the main part. But then this is just a brush stroke with the very tip of the brush right here. And then maybe some little pulled strokes to make the little seeds. And that's really fun. And leaves are the perfect thing to practice brush strokes with. So you can make little leaves and little flowers. Like these little guys are just like the tip of your brush, like dots. And then you can make this really colorful scene with lots
Of colors.
brush strokes. Lots of brush strokes all combined together. Okay, so remember to use lots of water. If your brush feels like it's dry and it's mostly paint, you need more water. Because watercolors are very different
Regular paint.
than regular paint. Yeah, you're really just painting with water and coloring the water with your paint. And you could use some of your washes from yesterday to paint over the top of, since they're already dry. And usually in watercolor, since you have to let things dry, otherwise they bleed into each other, which is fine if that's what you want. But if you don't want that, you have to let it dry before you can paint over it again. And yeah, so you can, I usually work on like 2 different things at the same time. So you can start one painting on a paper and then start another painting so that things can dry and go back and forth. How are you guys doing, Tucker and Archie, Sawyer? Great. I'm just going to be making lots of different little pulled strokes in different colors on the wash that I created yesterday. What are you making, Madeline?
So I'm gonna make probably the sunset.
The sunset? That's
Yep.
really cool, huh? So I would make your flat wash first for the whole background, just to the sky area, and then you can stop wherever you'd like the water to start. And then you might want to work on something else while that flat wash is drying. So you could do 2 things. How you doing, Nora? You doing the sky too? Remember how we did a wash yesterday, Nora? So you do one long stroke and you kind of tilt your paper, and then you take the water from that stroke and do another stroke. So you can do that for your background. How you doing, Crocker? Let me know if you guys need any help.
Okay.
Madeline, that's so nice.
Yay, look at that. Amazing. No, Nora, is yours done? Your sunset?
Amazing.
I'd love to see it when it's all done. What you working on now, Madeline?
Oh, I'm not done yet.
You're not done yet?
But
You all done?
I like your watermelon a lot.
Awesome, Nora. Look at that. Did you make a watermelon?
yeah. Almost messed it up a little.
Wow. Hi, Madeline. Yeah, sometimes when you lift up your paper, it starts to run.
Yeah.
So you have to.
I think that it looks kind of cool, but you can also use a paper towel to, excuse me, blot it.
Yeah.
Like press it straight down. Don't rub it. You just press it straight down.
Yeah. So if say I got some watercolor here that I didn't want, I can just push my paper towel on top of it and lift it up.
There you
And
go.
you'll probably still be able to see some of it depending on the color, but it does help. Some colors are harder to get up like that than others.
Now I can redo on that. I'll use a smaller brush. Oh yeah, this is good.
So I just did the same exact brush stroke all around in different directions. You can see that that's a really cool effect too. So you can just pick one brush stroke that you like and just do it in lots of different colors. Okay, so tomorrow we are going to be experimenting with lots of different textures you can put in your watercolor, and it's going to be lots of fun. We have lots of different experiments to try, and then we'll do a project with it at the end as well. So tomorrow you're going to need all the normal things we've had the last 2 days, and then you're going to need your salt, your little bottle of isopropyl alcohol, your paper towel and Q-tip, like all those little things that were in your box. Okay.
And Jess, they'll have to use salt from home. I didn't include salt.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Just table
Oh,
is fine, right?
yeah, just table salt.
Okay.
Just get some salt from your kitchen and have it with you. And then the other thing that I think you'll need from your kitchen, ask your mom if you have some saran wrap or even some wax paper.
And if any of you don't have any of that stuff, if you need saran wrap, I can drop it off. Just have your parents text me if you don't have saran wrap or wax paper. Just, you could probably even use like a plastic grocery sack, couldn't you?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I think that's when we've
Same
run
effect.
out of stuff, we've used that before.
Yeah. Okay. You guys excited for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Nora, that looks amazing.
Oh, Nora, I cannot wait to see the finished product. What,
was that,
Madeline?
What do we need for tomorrow?
Madeline? all the other extra things in your box. So you'll need all the things we used today plus all those extra little things. And then if you could get salt and saran wrap from your mom's. You're in the kitchen, so that should be
Nora, that is gorgeous.
that is very beautiful,
That is
Nora.
wonderful.
Love it.
And your moms can text me a picture of your finished products. We would love to put them on our gallery, okay? Okay, we're excited to see you all tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.